So today I'd like to welcome Pia Shekhter, and Pia is our international president of IAML, and she's also works at the Music and Dance Library, University of Göteborg in Sweden. I'd like to give a very warm welcome to Pia from Australia. Welcome, Pia. And also, just as Pia said before, Pia is speaking to us at 5 o'clock in the morning. So we thank you, Pia, for getting up so early. Now, I'd just like to introduce Pia to tell you a little bit about what Pia has undertaken in her role with IAML. She took on this role at the recent first ever online international congress in July, and Pia has had a long involvement with IAML in a number of roles, including 2018 to 2020 she was chair of the Swedish IAML branch, and in 2010 to 2018 she's secretary general of the International Association of Music Libraries international body. Very important role. And she works at the Music and Drama Library, Göteborg University Library, Sweden, which supports the Academy of Music and Drama. And in her role there, her main responsibilities are acquisition, interlibrary loans of printed music, and supporting the information and lending desk. And more importantly, Pia was recently awarded the Greta Renberg's Prize of the Svensk Biblioteksföreningen for promoting the rights of all people to participate in musical life. So what better way to speak to us today, Pia? We've got the expert here. So thank you. Over to you, Pia.
Thank you very much. And thank you for inviting me to your conference. I am grateful for this opportunity to inform you about IAML, an association that has meant a lot to me, both professionally and personally, during my 35 years as a music librarian. If you're not already a member, I say, welcome to IAML, music librarians, archivists, and information specialists of the world. Why then do I believe that you would benefit from being a member of our community? The IAML website says, participation in the work of IAML means that you become a more effective member of your profession. You make valuable contacts, you keep up with new developments, you gain experience and ideas, you also gain friends. I would, for example, never have had the pleasure to meet Georgina Binns if it wasn't for IAML. IAML is a leading member of the International Library and Music Communities. The association was founded under the auspices of UNESCO in 1951, which means that we are celebrating our 70th anniversary this year. During the Second World War, many libraries were partially or completely destroyed and holdings were scattered. After the war, music librarians and musicologists came together to collaborate on a huge inventory of musical sources, the so-called RISM project. This was in fact the origin of IAML. The project is still very much alive today with a large and advanced database that is free of charge. IAML currently has around 1,650 individual and institutional members in some 40 countries throughout the world, with national branches in 26 countries on 5 continents. One of IAML's strengths is that we have all kinds of libraries and archives within our association, from large and famous libraries such as Library of Congress to small public libraries in cities and towns around the world. We hold annual congresses. According to our surveys, IAML's congresses are very much appreciated by the attendees. In fact, more than 98% of the respondents answer that they find attending the Congress worthwhile. This makes me very happy, of course. The thing that is appreciated most of all is the possibility to network. The Swedish IAML branch had the great pleasure to host the IAML 2006 conference at the Academy of Music and Drama in Gothenburg, where I work. That was indeed a peak experience in my working life. It so happened that the following conference, the one in 2007, took place in Sydney. Next year's Congress will be held in Prague. Our Czech colleagues are eagerly awaiting us. I truly admire their patience. We have had to postpone the Congress in Prague 2 years in a row due to the pandemic. I imagine that the reunion in 2022 will be very special, when the IAML community has not met in person since the Congress in Krakow in 2019. In case you're interested, I would like to mention that there is a digital poster exhibition on the IAML website that I put together for the anniversary this year. The address to IAML's website is iaml.info. You will find the exhibition under History and Archives. The exhibition consists of a timeline with important dates in our history and a selection of photos. IAML membership is open to any person or institution interested in the work of the association. Among IAML's members, you find music and audiovisual librarians, music archivists and documentation specialists, musicians and musicologists, orchestra, opera and chorus librarians, music publishers and suppliers. IAML's principal aims are to encourage and promote the activities of music libraries, archives and documentation centers, and strengthen cooperation among individuals and institutions working in these fields. To promote a better understanding of the cultural importance of music libraries, archives, and documentation centers nationally and internationally. To promote the particular needs of music within the general library framework. To support projects that improve the provision of music services through bibliography, cataloging, preservation, digitization, and research. And to promote professional education and training. The board is the executive committee of the General Assembly and comprises 8 officers: the president, the immediate past president, the president-elect every 3rd year, secretary general, treasurer, and 4 vice presidents. And here we are. As you can see, this photo was taken in 2019. The board actually did meet at a mid-year board meeting at the end of February in 2020, but after that we have only had online meetings due to the pandemic. IAML has national branches in 26 countries. In 1970, a common branch for Australia and New Zealand was founded. One of my strategic intentions as IAML's new president is to bring the national branches closer to each other. We would benefit so much professionally from sharing news and ideas. It would increase our awareness of the musical life in countries around the world, with a special focus on libraries and archives. A forum of national representatives advises the board on matters of national concern and other issues facing the association. The Forum of National Representatives meets at the annual congresses, and the representative of the respective national branch is usually the chair. And the IAML has 2 types of sections: institutional sections and subject sections. Institutional sections bring together members working in the same professional field or type of institution. We have archives and music documentation centers, broadcasting and orchestra libraries, libraries and music teaching institutions, public libraries, and research libraries. I have previously been involved in libraries and music teaching institutions branch since I'm working in a conservatoire. But during IAML's congresses, I'm certainly interested in the sessions organized by other sections as well. Public libraries are especially close to my heart. I have such fond memories from the excellent music department of the public library in the small town Västerås, where I grew up. Subject sections deal with the same type of activity and focus on new developments within their sphere of interest. Audiovisual materials, bibliography, cataloging and metadata, and service and training. The chairs of the institutional sections and subject sections constitute the forum of sections which oversees the planning of the annual Congress program and advise the board on other matters relating to their particular areas of interest. The forum of sections meet at the annual congresses usually, but this year we're actually meeting next week, online of course. Besides from the different sections, IAML also has several committees that carry out specific assignments to advise the association. Advocacy, constitution, copyright, membership, outreach, and publications. The Advocacy Committee is relatively new, but very active. The remit of the committee is to be proactive in promoting and speaking for the importance of music libraries, archives, and documentation centers. Actually, we have no really good word for advocacy in Swedish, but you can find some equivalent here, lobbyverksamhet. The Advocacy Committee has compiled a very impressive resource with best practices from different countries. As you might see on this slide, the second article is a SWOT analysis of music libraries in Australia. IAML has a set of policy statements approved by the IAML board on international issues that affect music repositories and providers of music information. It also happens that the president writes letters of support to libraries that are affected in different ways. IAML is a part of the library and music ecosystems. We are members of the International Federation of Library Associations and Institutions, IFLA, the International Council on Archives, ICA, International Music Council, IMC, and the European Bureau of Library Information and Documentation Associations, EBLIDA. Lately, IAML has intensified our work with the International Music Council. We are, for example, using very occasion to promote the so-called 5 music rights, a set of values developed by the IMC that were first proclaimed in 2001. As you can see, right number 3 is especially applicable to IAML, to have access to musical involvement through participation, listening, creation, and information. IAML is also affiliated with several sister organizations, the International Musicological Society, the International Council of Traditional Music, International Association of Sound Archives, the International Association of Music Information Centers, and the European Association of Music Conservatoires, and other professional associations. And another of my strategic intentions as president is to intensify the contacts with our sister organizations. IAML is co-sponsoring 4 highly prestigious bibliographic projects, the so-called R projects. They are all produced by cooperation between national groups and an international center responsible for collecting and coordinating national contributions. I have previously talked about RISM. Perhaps you are also familiar with RILM, the Comprehensive Bibliography of Writings about Music. RIDIM documents visual materials relating to music, dance, theatre, and opera, for example, in paintings and book illustrations. The most recent of the art projects is a RIBM, Retrospective Index to Music Periodicals. YAML has plenty of communication channels, as you can see. Our journal Fontes, the discussion list YAML, the website, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and more. If you're not already subscribing to YAML, I would strongly recommend you to do so. My hope is that the discussion list will become much more vivid than it is today. Fontes is an academic peer-reviewed journal free of charge for the members and accessible on the YAML website. The journal is also accessible online through EBSCO JSTOR and Project Muse. So this is our home page of the website with a tweet feed. And this is the Facebook page. Some photos on Instagram. I very often come back to this quotation by one of our past presidents, Roger Fleury, because I think it is so true. The music librarian is too often the unsung hero of the music profession, but any musician or music scholar will tell you that without the library foundation and the professional services that it provides, the platform and pillars of music would collapse. One cannot survive without the other. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. I would also appreciate very much to hear what you think YAML should do to be relevant to you. Your views on YAML are very important to me since I'm in the beginning of my presidency and is presently formulating a strategy for the coming 3 years. On Tuesday next week, the YAML board has a meeting. I will be happy to forward any concerns or ideas you may have.
Thank you, Pia, so much. That was an amazing overview of the activities of YAML International and how our organisation as a branch feeds into what you do at that level. It's fantastic to get that context. Thank you so much. And there's so many different people attending the conference today. I think we've got 45 people logged in now from different different types of libraries. You know, we've got public, orchestral, music teaching institutions, national, state libraries, researchers. Have I missed anybody? Broadcasting libraries. So there's a whole range, and it's interesting to see where we fit into that, and I think that's important. We're trying to build our membership. We've just had our annual general meeting, and that's one of our points was looking at viability ongoing for the organisation. So we're interested to hear, I guess, how other countries are feeling as well, with the, you know, the impact of, there's lots of things impacting actually around membership and ability for people to commit either in work time or voluntary after hours. We've got the pandemic. We also have an increasing budgetary impact in libraries. Luckily, sometimes our public libraries, I think about in Australia, we're lucky we don't have some of the problems that other public library networks have, for instance, in the UK or America. We do have a very strong public library system here in Australia, probably similar to yours in Sweden and Finland. but increasing budgetary impacts, integration of music collections, especially in our music teaching institutions, because of the demand on space and needs to cut staff, which means that in specialisation, that we might have been used to in the past is being diluted. So there's a whole lot of issues that are impacting us. I'd be interested to hear what your thoughts are from an international level on that, and how we can move forward and continue to grow our organisation. Got any ideas? I know it's a big question. It's a big question.
Yes. So not only do I have to make a presentation at 6 o'clock in the morning, I have to think also. but you, I think you, and also speak in a foreign language. Please remember this.
Yes.
No, I think that you presented it very well, and actually, I have a very personal experience from this, because my library is closing actually in a year, and we will be merged by the larger university library. So I feel it on my skin, so to speak. And yes, all issues you mentioned are actually very well known also in Sweden, especially maybe this. I always identified strongly, with being a music librarian, and of course working in a conservatoire, that is true. But in public libraries, my colleagues, they are not allowed to the same extent to be specialists, and that is so. And this is also makes it maybe difficult to recruit new members, because maybe the colleagues, they might be very enthusiastic, but they really cannot call themselves music specialists. They work with many other subjects as well. But we have a very stable membership in Sweden, actually. I think it is because we have such a strong tradition. Our national branch was founded already 1953. We were one of the earliest, and the United Kingdom will also celebrate its 70th anniversary in 2023, when we will have our Congress in Cambridge.
We just have a quick question in the chat for you, Pia, if you'd like to answer that. It's, what ideas do you have for bringing the national groups together as a whole or subset?
Oh, thank you. Well, the thing is, for example, we have now, due to the pandemic, or if I may say thanks to the pandemic, we're using online channels much more. And my idea is, for example, that we would we will definitely continue with these online meetings between the congresses. I think it's such a good way to keep the community together, and also one has to remember that it's only a small part of the membership that really can go to the international congresses. So I thought that I hope that we can, every national branch could organize an online meeting each semester. So, for example, the Swedish IAML branch is serving as a good example, and we will invite you all the 6th of December. We're organizing actually a meeting about musical life in Sweden, so to speak. And then I hope that other national branches would like to continue. So next spring, for example, maybe IAML Australia will talk about anything that is of concern to you. When we this forum of national representatives we have during the international congresses, we hoped so much that would be a discussion forum between the board and the national branches, but it has unfortunately become rather formal and with an agenda, and so to speak. I would like to have much more of a spontaneous discussions. So maybe we will meet once per semester, and maybe have the ordinary session 1.5 hours with different presentations. followed by a social hour where we can speak more freely. So that's at least one idea. And then I hope very much also that people will be more active on IAML or the social channels, but or also write reports on I always try to do that, write reports on the website, sharing simply. So I took part in a conference a couple of years ago with it was called the International Association of Associations. And we were taught that the most important thing with an association is to keep the community feeling going. So it's very important, especially maybe for the younger generation. Sharing is the key word, I think. So that's also something we try to do as IAML's president.
Thanks, Pia. That's a really interesting point. I was just going to ask you about how can we attract younger members? We're all aging, and the librarian profession is aging in many ways. You know, there's less people coming through, but as I was mentioning earlier in our meeting, the industry around what we call GLAM. I'm not sure if GLAM is something you use in Sweden, but people who work in galleries, libraries, archives and museums, it's becoming more fluid, you know, the types of people who are working across these institutions. And so, like you said before, people aren't as specialised necessarily, but they have a passion and a knowledge around information management, but there might be something that we can tap into around music in collections. So it is hard because it's becoming a little bit more dissolved to attract younger members.
Yes, but at the same time, Georgina, you maybe you would tell better, but IFLA had this fantastic session this year with what do you call it, the new special interest group or something.
New professionals.
Yes.
Yes.
And they were so interested in music. I was so happy. Isn't that true? Unfortunately, I couldn't take part in the questions and answer session, but they invited us, and they had this. They invited us to talk about IAML, and they had this competition. Music librarians, colleagues from different libraries were, you know, composing and performing music. Really very good, by the way.
They were
humoristical. So maybe there is actually an interest if we can just reach out.
So we just have to chat. Sorry.
IAML has so many challenges because when it comes to reaching out, we are really not so international as I would have liked us to be. For IASA, for example, had a conference. No, actually, just finished yesterday, I think. And I noticed
the Sound Association.
Oh yeah, sorry, yes. And I noticed how very well spread it is all over the world. So we have lots of work in front of us.
Yeah.
But actually,
sorry.
Okay. Just wanted to mention that in a few years we will meet in Stellenbosch, South Africa. So I will really try to. We have so few members in Africa. I'm ashamed to say. So that's something we will have to take every opportunity to really reach out to colleagues around the world. So much to do when it comes to preservation issues, for example. That's why I think we should work together with UNESCO, for example, and the International Music Council to become stronger.
Yes, and we actually had some interest from colleagues in South America for this conference as well. So there's growing interest there too. Look, Pia, we are coming to the end of the session.
Sorry.
No. Colleagues are coming in to present for the next round. But I guess one of the things, I'll just make a statement, and I know I've put this in an email to you. Some of the issues around participating at the international level are really, especially online, is really about the time of day. Simple as that. When we were involved in the International Online Conference in July, you know, we were clocking on at 11 o'clock at night and, you know, dipping in and out until 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. So it's a completely different kind of time zone for us, and it makes it hard for people to be enthusiastic about being involved. But at the recent IFLA conference, they I think it was 3 days, wasn't it, online, and each day was given a different cluster of time zones, so that at least one day was actually okay. So there was a Australasian Pacific time zone cluster of papers, which meant that you know, we could attend at a decent time. But it also then kind of felt more equitable too, that the world's an equal place, equal playing field.
Absolutely, yes.
So something to think about.
We have discussed this. We discussed it a lot in the board, and I really hoped you would bring this up, because since we have our board meeting on Tuesday, I will forward this issue again. We have to think about this. IAML is much too Europe oriented, as it is by tradition, so to speak, a long tradition.
Yeah, which is understandable, but you know, on the other side of the world, we're very active in a different kind of way, as New Zealand and Australia have shown through our international hosting of conferences. We're not sure when we'll be able to do it again, but maybe the online environment's completely going to change that approach.
I was so lucky during my period as Secretary General. I was working with Roger Fleury, and he was at that time, he was President and I was Secretary General, and he was at that time living in New Zealand. So
yeah, so I think we'll close the session now, because we'll move on, and we hope that you're able to stay on a little bit, maybe grab a cup of coffee and have your Wheaties with us. Your cornflakes.
I have to excuse myself because I have to leave after the next session.
Sure. Oh, thank you so much for being part of it. I guess the biggest challenge for us is this, as I mentioned earlier, the increasing kind of need at management level for kind of, you know, budgetary change, and the you know, we can't just have specialised music librarians anymore. We need to be multitasking across many different kinds of disciplines, and so that issue is starting to impact on organisations such as this, I believe. So that's something I think we can look at considering in the future as we work to maintain an outreach to people who are working with music collections in different ways. So thank you very much, Pia. It's just an absolute pleasure to have you calling in from Sweden so early.
Great to see you all. Thank you.
As our esteemed international president, and we really appreciate your words and encouragement. There's lots of hand clapping going on. So thank you very much.